Hello and welcome back to Down the Slope. For the first time in what feels like ages, we've got some positivity kicking about Hibs. We've got a bit of a different cast for you today. We've got Liam returning as always. Liam, how are we getting on?
I'm doing very well, thank you, mate. Good weekend, really good weekend. Very fulfilling. Had a wee bit of a hangover yesterday for the first time in a while. Forgotten what that feels like, but it didn't overtake my weekend. Had a good one, thank you.
Nice, awesome. And joining us for the first time on the pod, one of my best friends growing up. He's been listening to the pod from day one. We've got Craig. Craig, how are we getting on, mate?
I'm not bad at all, mate. Thanks very much for having me on. Buzzing after the weekend. Strange coming back from a Hibs game, winning. So
Hey.
that was a nice
Nice. And
feeling.
just for reference, I've got people, Liam, I don't know if you're the same, but see, whenever I go to Hibs games, especially away, I've always got the people that I don't know, but I'll see just because I know they go to
Uh,
every game. And you probably recognize Craig if you've never met him because Craig goes home and away every week with my sister. The two of them are everywhere. But Craig, just to get the guys that are listening today to know you a bit, what's been your favourite moment of the season so far?
Favourite moment this season would be Luzerne away. Me and you were across there. Some trip from what I can remember of the day. Uh, I've got full memory, but it was a class day out. And to be fair, Birmingham was really, really good as well. All three of us were down there. Somebody out, even though we got pumped, but still good.
I know, definitely worth it. And
Craig
just
told me, by the way, off camera that his highlight of the Birmingham trip was the taxi that we got
No,
Solvar to the ground. Just so the
I've never
listeners
met
know.
Jose Mourinho, so it was good to meet him.
For reference, Liam on the podcast does some great impressions from time to time, but when he was as many beers in as he was, the impressions were not hitting, and we were just sat there like, Liam, come on now, son. Um, but also, just before we get into business, Nick Montgomery, Craig, what's your thoughts on him? I know we've kind of had a roller coaster week with us getting pumped off St. Mirren and then a couple of good performances. Where do you stand on him?
Do you know what? I think it'd be delusional to say it's all been plain sailing since he came in. He had a good start, and then and been pretty ordinary the last sort of, I don't know, 10 games, something like that. But I'm definitely firmly in the camp of can't be asked with a manager merry-go-round. So I'm just let's see what happens type guy. So no, do you know what? I like him. I like him. He seems like a really nice guy. I like a manager that's stubborn, but I'm glad he's not been too stubborn and has changed it up in a wee bit in recent weeks. I think we've seen the fruits of that recently.
Nice. And just coming on to that, I think a big thing it would be a miss not to discuss. It was one of those things that started on Twitter on hibs.net as something that it looks like someone had made up, that there'd been a bit of a bust up in the changing room of some of the leaders kind of having a go at different people in the dressing room, whether it be other players, the coaching staff and stuff. And then it transpired that Hibs Observer and a few of the national title, like the national papers and stuff covered it. Liam, do you think that was something that was probably desperately needed? The team was definitely stagnating on the pitch, and it did feel like we needed something to give us a bit of a lift.
I think so. I think sometimes you just need to clear the air, and sometimes it takes a disagreement and some crosswords to do that. I think we've all been in those sorts of situations, maybe not in a work capacity, but in a personal capacity. I think it's absolutely fine to have disagreement and some crosswords. It's fine as long as no one decides to just leave on the back of it. But I do think, ultimately sometimes what happens is really for the good of the team, you sort of figure things out. And I think for Hibs, certainly doesn't seem to have done us any harm. Players seem to have come back with a bit more fight and a bit more desire.
Yeah, definitely. And Craig, in terms of some of the performances since then, we've obviously had two games. Is there any players in particular you think have had a significant step up in against Celtic and Inverness?
Well, I mean, the player that I would highlight is Mariah Welsh. I mean, it's difficult to say as a step up, to be fair, because I thought even though it came on against St Mirren, I actually thought it was, although the team was pretty rubbish, even in the second half, obviously when he came on, I thought loads of energy, got stuck in, and I thought that was maybe just a wee glimpse into him. And then started against Celtic, and he was excellent, to be fair. He showed a lot of energy, and obviously the much talked about 4-4-2 changed to a 4-3-3. He came into the midfield to give Joe Newell and I think it was Levitt that started the Celtic
Yeah.
game. Gave them a hand, and to be fair, I actually thought he made them better. Gave certainly Joe Newell anyway. Levitt was still pretty ordinary the whole game, but obviously popped up with a goal, which is good for him. But Moriah Welsh, I love his energy. I love his get up and go, and he just smashes folk. He just gets about and smashes folk, and that's sometimes what you need.
I think a good word to describe him is probably tenacious. Got a bit of tenacity
Absolutely.
about him. Hey, Liam, I know you're a big fan of him as well since he's come in.
I think he looks like he can play football as well. Like I think that tenacity seems to be allied with actually a fair bit of ability. Seems to quite keen to take it and take it in tight spaces. I'm still trying to figure out what kind of midfielder he is because I know we all have to pigeonhole midfielders into 6, 8s, or 10s. I'd say probably based on his energy, you'd say he's maybe an 8, but he seems to like doing some of the work of a 6 as well. So, um, I think it's come at a good time. It's come at a time where we really needed some fresh impetus in the team, and it's come at a time where I think the midfield's been sadly lacking energy for weeks now. So to bring him in, maybe maybe had to use him a wee bit more than we'd planned or maybe wanted to as well. Just because typically when you're signing guys that haven't played a huge amount of football, you maybe want to sort of break them in gently, so to speak. But he's just been playing. Well, he's played 2 lots of 90 minutes, hasn't he, in the last few days? So no, good on him. I do like him.
And I know I always bring it back to. I don't mean to shit on players present or former, but I think the difference between Jago and Moriah Welsh is Moriah Welsh, it's got the energy to get up and down the field the whole game. I think that Jago definitely could attribute him to making the players around him better, but I think that Moriah Welsh makes the players around him better and is a very good player to have in there.
You better not say anything about Jago, mate, or someone will need to read out a pre-prepared statement on him if we go too in depth on Jago to make sure
or
that no one thinks that our views of him are tainted.
And definitely don't want anybody sitting on the fence as well. But yeah, and just to kind of push on that, I know Craig mentioned it briefly, but I went quite hard on Newell last week. I do think that January was not a good month for him. I think that December as well. I don't think it was particularly good, but I think against Celtic, it was his best performance we've seen since that kind of like golden period at the start of the season. And I think it was so unlucky with a penalty. It was one of those ones, if it goes against you, you feel hard done by, but end of the day, we're not going to get into VAR because we've knocked our head against the wall so many times about that. But I thought Newell was probably our man of the match against Celtic. I can't say I saw much of him against Inverness, but apparently he was one of the players that was pretty vocal in the bust up. So it's good to see him talking shit and backing it up. I hate a guy that'll point the finger and won't do anything different themselves, but it seems like he kind of was like, we're all playing crap, let's get on this together. And it seems like he's pulling us forward, which is what you want the guy that's wearing the captain's armband to do. And another, obviously, 3 in the middle. I know you're not a formation fan, Liam, but in terms of just having bodies in certain areas of the pitch, it definitely does look like we're a bit more rigid in the middle of the park the last couple of games.
I don't know if we're more rigid. I would say, but we're definitely. I mean, there seems to be an extra body in there, but to be honest, there's been an extra body in there since he started playing Marcondes. It's just that Marcondes' role seemed to be a bit more fluid, to use the opposite word of rigid. He seemed to be coming deep and playing sort of further forward at points as well. So, look, I think the key thing is the personnel returning. I think everyone wants to labour the thing about formations, and I'll let them do that, but you've had Miller and Boyle come back from international duty, which is massive. You've brought Moriah Welsh into the team where there was lacking energy. We've now suddenly got a bit more energy. And to be honest, Mijana Maulida looks to be a bit of a find as well in terms of he's providing a slightly different focal point up front. It's a very different option to the option that Venti gives you as well. So I do think that the team has been improved and the personnel's improved. You look at the bench at the weekend, and even to some extent against Celtic, there's strength now. Where, to be honest, there was 4 or 5 youngsters on the bench. Just, I don't want to say making up the numbers because they were coming on and they were playing a part, but young guys who maybe you wouldn't be able to hang your hat on them in terms of if you needed someone to come on and change a game or even solidify a game when you're in front. We didn't have that option, so I think the personnel's the big thing for me.
And then Craig, obviously you went up to Forfar and you went to the Inverness game. Apologies if I said either of those in an American way. But for those 2 games, what was the main difference in terms of, obviously, as Liam touched on, the personnel massively different, but in terms of the style, just even looking at the stats, it seemed like it was a lot more exciting in the way that we were trying to play football.
It's night and day, to be honest. To be fair, I mean, Forfar was just terrible. It was kind of what you expect going to these grounds in these games. It was a I'm not going to say plucky. I think that's a wee bit insulting for Forfar, but yeah, I mean they were right up for it. It was a typical big team or bigger team against a smaller team. Like they were getting stuck in, they were shouting, they were screaming at each other, and Hibs Forfar just kind of looked like, I'm not going to say we turned up and expected to win, but I think maybe the attitude wasn't in the right places. Not so much lack of effort or anything like that. I just think I also at times against Forfar we try to be too cool, like try to be too calm and I suppose you can't be too calm, but a bit too cool and taking it a bit too easy, not moving the ball quick enough. Whereas against Inverness after Celtic, I think the attitude was completely different, and I think the players maybe seen after Celtic that hey, if we go a lot of energy here with the three midfield now as well, if we go into the game with a lot of energy and we just work really hard, then that's half the job done, and we've got excellent footballers on our team, and we can hurt teams, and I think so in the second half against Inverness we just stepped up and our better players were shining at that point.
And then Liam, in terms of like that high energy, I think after we scored against Celtic midweek, there was that flurry of I've not actually felt that excited watching Hibs play during a period of time since like the Lennon days of when like who knows where the ball's going. It's just going to be in either end of the like in a box at one end of the pitch within 3 minutes. Like it was just so exciting and we just lambasted them. Like that's the type of thing we need from Montgomery. That's what when he came in, that was the attacking football that he promised. Obviously, we were all saying we need a goal or the inevitable is going to happen. But at least we've shown we can put that type of football together.
Aye, I think expectations need to be set a lot higher than they have been over the last few weeks. And actually, we want to get back to playing the way that we were really during the early part of his spell. And you like to think that that wasn't just a sort of new manager bounce period, that sort of first 68 games. Actually, it was a bit more like the identity that we hoped he was going to bring in. I think the run of games that we've got coming up is going to be difficult, but there's no reason why we can't in the next sort of 3 or 4 games go and try and play that style. It would be quite refreshing actually, based on what we were sort of served up in the months of December and January, to see something that was more like getting back to that style of football. I do think the other thing that will help Montgomery is as you get out of this sort of winter season and pitches maybe start to improve a wee bit, become a bit more conducive to playing passing football. I think sometimes it's overlooked. You know, I think about some of the pitches that we played on over the last sort of 7 or 8 games, you know, like the McDermott Park game in December, which I think I said at the time, you know, it was absolutely abysmal to play on. Don't know what Craig's kind of take was at the weekend, but the surface in Inverness didn't look great either, which is probably not surprising playing a Scottish Championship team in the Highlands. But I do think that that does present some challenges, and hopefully that's another thing that can kind of sort of work in our favour in the next few weeks.
And Craig, putting that to you in terms of the play style and in terms of certain players that we've not covered yet, one player I'm interested in, Triantis. Obviously 2 penalties given away in his first 2 games, both of which were pretty harsh, I felt, on him. But did he look a bit stronger at the weekend?
I thought he looked good, to be fair. I think a lot of the defence looked all right. Obviously, we conceded the goal right at the end, which is disappointing, but it's a great strike. It's one of these ones where you go, it's poor defending because you've let him get the shot off, but I think it was a second phase of a corner or free kick or something. But can't really stop that when as soon as he strikes it, it's in. But for the whole game, I didn't really feel in any danger at all, which is kind of the opposite of what I expected. I expected to go up to there and them to have plenty of chances. Kind of as soon as they got a wee spell, I thought they'll start getting loads of chances. I watched the Morton Motherwell game, and that put the fear right into me the night before the game, because that was like a typical Championship side, like smashing a Premiership team. So I was a wee bit worried after that, but no, Trent, he looked all right. He was nothing out of this world, but I don't think he really had much out of this world to do. Like he wasn't up against much of attack. I was quite disappointed with Inverness, to be honest. I thought they maybe been posing us a few more problems, but not for the most part. He looked fairly solid, and I don't think he's looked bad in the other games either. I think obviously, like you say, he's conceded a couple of penalties, which both of them I thought were relatively harsh on him. He was unfortunate in both of them, shall we say. Certainly the one against Celtic, I think 9 times out of 10 that's given us a bounce ball, but he's maybe just got a wee bit overexcited for the header, being a bit too physical, shall we say. But no, he was okay. He was okay.
They're all gonna, yeah. So let's get on to the goals. We scored a few nice ones. It's fair to say. Obviously, Trent has got himself an assist. Boyle, that's the Boyle that we'd be missing at the start of the season. I've seen people bringing him up on the timeline, be like, "How's he got away with having such a terrible start to the season?" And hopefully, if he continues the form that he's come back with, because he's looked rapid in these last couple of games, and he did look like he'd lost a step at the start of the season. I don't know if you guys agree, but I know Martin Boyle to just be this like rapid guy who'll run at players, get in behind, and just annoy opposition players with his pace, and he looks like he's just got a bit of confidence about him now. Like that goal, that literally screams Martin Boyle before he left for that, like whatever team he left, I can't even remember. But that was really positive. And Malida for his second goal, was it Malida? Yeah. I get he's got a similar name to the other boy we signed as well, but it's Malida, I'm right. Mizian Malida.
Aye, yeah, he's good first.
Perfect. He's got the Doigism of scores goals, but when the ball leaves his body, it doesn't go where he wants it to go, but it takes deflections and gets in the back of the net anyway, which I'm completely on board for. Like you need the strikers or the attackers that just take shots, and it doesn't matter who's in their way. He's gonna power it into the back of the net. So I'm glad that we've still got like a shit house that's gonna make that happen. But Liam, I'll get your thoughts on the goals in a second. But Craig, as soon as the third goal went in, Beck sent to the group chat, best goal of the season by far. It reminded me quite a bit of the Tavares goal away to Dundee, but that is the Monty ball that we want to see, isn't it?
Oh, it's a beautiful goal. Absolutely beautiful. One touch football. Obviously, Emmy involved in the middle as well, in that goal. And I think what kind of people are missing as well is Alfie up front, leaving it for Boyle as well. That was quite key. I think he probably would have been offside. But no, it was just a beautiful goal all round. I don't think goal of the season's not far away from it, but I think maybe there's ones earlier on in the season that maybe take that. But no, it was a beautiful football going. More what I expect with the quality of football that we've got on in our team. Obviously, we're no secret we've not been playing well recently, but we should be scoring far more of those types of goals, or certainly making more of those quality chances with the footballers that we've got on our team, because we've got some really top quality footballers.
And speaking of that, Liam, like in terms of Lafondra's back, and then one of your favourite players at the club, Chris Cadden's back. The squad just seems to keep getting stronger and stronger, like every game we're progressing.
Aye, it does. It does. I mean, I think I made the point earlier about the bench and looking like you've got more options. I think it's also reflected in reflected in a number of metrics. But I think if you look at the number of shots we've been getting off the last few games, I think a lot of that's to do with the fact we've got players on the bench who can come on and actually offer something rather than bringing on kind of a token substitute. 14 attempts at the weekend, 12 attempts against Celtic, and we only managed 6 against St Mirren at the weekend before that. So I think you can see that there's little signs there maybe that actually as an attacking force we've got more options. We've got guys who can come on and give you something different. Lafondra's a really intelligent player, as we've talked about, who'll kind of occupy very different spaces to the likes of Venta and even Maulida. I just think that can only serve as well having that sort of set of options. The one thing I think you always worry about with a manager is sometimes some managers struggle when they have too many options and they just don't know how to like piece it all together because they get too many players in an attacking sense. But I think he's had long enough for this squad now to know what his sort of preferred 11 should be, and actually consistency of selection will be quite important for us going forward too.
Yeah, and I think a big thing for me is like I like it when managers say things and they actually happen. Like Montgomery at the start of January was like, we're only going to bring in players if we think that they will make an impact on the first team. And every single player that he's brought in will either be a starter week on week if they're fit, or they'll be brought on for like impact substitutions. So yeah, I think that's really positive. And looking back on January, if we didn't have that stupid St Mirren game that we had an absolute disaster class in, I think we all would have been a lot more positive going into the last couple of games. So it does actually feel like we're in a good vibe at the current moment in time. But we'll dive into a few listener questions that got sent in, some reflections on the game. First is from Arthur. What a guy! He said, "Is Obita the first name on the team sheet? If not, who is? Hashtag up the road." But Craig, coming to you on that, I know it's Liam's least favourite phrase in football, first name on the team sheet. But for yourself, Craig, is he the first on yours? And if not, what Hibs player currently is?
He'd certainly be one of them. Certainly be one of them. Usually one of the first players I'm think of as Fish, because got obviously listening to this podcast quite a lot. He's like a centre half debate, or lack of centre half debate anyway. But he's Fish as an automatic starter for me. But Abita, to be fair, even at centre half, Abita was good as well. We did lose the game 3-0, but we'll not talk about that. But no, he's been excellent recently, to be fair. It's nice to have a left back that actually likes to cross the ball into the box with a wee bit of quality. And that's not me bashing Stevenson, because I love the guy, but it's good to have that. Obviously, we've seen that a wee bit with Doig, and then he was away. But no, I really like Abita. He's a good player.
Abita's ability to be able to cross when he's got absolutely no space available to him is a real asset to have as well. The amount of times he sort of takes it and you go, oh, what's he going to do here? And he just seems to like manage to engineer just like a few inches enough to swing across in. And it's the quality of the delivery. It's hit with such pace and it's at a trajectory that's gettable. I think he's been a really good find. He's the one that I think, obviously, it's pretty clear that someone that Brian McDermott would have identified. I think he's the one signing they made in the summer where obviously he came in, he was injured at the start and you're a wee bit unsure of him. But as time's gone on, he's the sort of grower. Like over time, you're starting to see more and more quality from him. And actually, probably go out on a limb to say in a couple of years' time, looking back, I think he'll probably be the best signing that we made on a permanent basis in the summer, just in terms of sort of return on his value. We picked him up on a free left back, filled an important position where we were transitioning away from a guy who's been at the club for a very, very long time. I think he's a terrific signing.
And another thing with Abita is he like always wraps his foot around the ball when he crosses in, so it's always so good for attackers to like actually run onto him trying to attack, because so often with Hibs players it feels like they'll just put balls and it'll just go over everybody's head to the back post. Nobody will be able to get anywhere near it. But if you kind of just smack it the right way, it's going to be in the mixer, and that's what's so satisfying about Abita. And I think that with Cadden coming back, I think we always said Cadden's crosses were fine, but he just had no service in the middle that he could actually hit the ball to. So he's an exciting player for me. But Liam, if I could push you for a first name on the team sheet, despite your hatred of that question, who at the moment jumps out to you?
It's probably too early to say Moriah-Welsh, because I don't want to get too carried away after just a few appearances. But I think the difference he's made has been pretty notable. Look, it's probably because of more than just what he does on the pitch. It's probably still Joe Newell for me, just in terms of what he actually offers as an influencer on the rest of the team. I generally think that if he has a good game, we have a good game. And he is sort of, whether he's club captain, team captain, he does have that sort of leadership role. Forgot all about Lee Johnson in the leadership role until I said that. He does have that sort of leadership role, obviously, which is really important. I do just generally think as well, I know he's someone who does divide and split opinion, but I do think he's just at that stage of his career now where like he has shown more consistency over the course of the last sort of 12 to 18 months really than he has done at any point in his Hibs career. And I think if you put the right players around him, I think he can be a really, really important part of a successful team actually as well. Not just a good team that plays well once every couple of weeks, like a successful team. He just needs the right players around him.
Yeah, no, definitely think that's fair. And we all know that I love a bandwagon. He's come back for 2 games. He's looked great. I'm fully on board with Martin Boyle. I'm really liking what I'm seeing with him the last couple of games. And I think if he stays out right and he's not played up front, I think that we'll see the best of him. I think that out of the wingers that we have available, I think that he's currently got the highest ceiling of like being able to consistently put in a good 90 minutes, because obviously with Yuan, who we should probably discuss after I've finished my ramble about Boyle, I think that Boyle, when he's on his game, he can just relentlessly bully players on the wing. And one thing I loved as well, I don't know if you noticed against Celtic, but every single time he'd get beat to the ball, as soon as the ball got passed on, he'd shove the player. And I love people like that. Bernabei, he kept snapping at him afterwards. But I think that's because even the semi-final against Aberdeen, when Miller like gave the boy a little shove and then he got him sent off, I think that players that are happy to wind other players up, I think that's such a good asset to have. So Martin Boyle, I'm on the bandwagon. Let's keep this rolling, my friend.
See another thing with Boyle, Harry. I think that if this changing system is something that we stick with 3 in the middle, if that allows him just to play a wee bit further up the pitch and more on the shoulder of either the other centre back or the left back, you'll get more from him doing that than you will with just two in the middle, because it releases him that further bit up the pitch, but also, like, we're probably not going to play a huge number of teams in the league who are going to play a high line against us anyway, because of the types of players that we've got. But actually, just allowing him to just kind of just drop in and take the ball in a little bit more space than he's getting at the moment, because what we've seen a lot of in the last few weeks is, because we've been playing someone relatively inexperienced at right back, is quite often Tavares or Ewan are just taking the ball into feet and then being expected to do something from a standing start. Actually, with players like that, you really want to be knocking the ball into the space and getting them to run on with it. So I think we could see a much better Martin Boyle in the second half of the season. I hope so.
Especially if we're playing long balls, because that man will capitalise if it bounces, which is fantabby-dozy. But Craig, coming to you, on with us for the first time. Liam cringed at fantabby-dozy, love that.
I did.
Yeah, but in terms of Ellie Yuan, you're a guy that goes to the games quite often. He's someone that seems to really polarise Hibs fans. Where do you stand on our Frenchman?
Oh, he's a frustrating guy to watch sometimes, but he's one of these guys that just give him the ball and let him take full con. It does annoy me because the typical, like with Yuan, it seems typical anyway. Like he tries to beat his man like 6 times before he actually will either release the ball or go past them. Like he done it a couple of times at the weekend when he was in the second half and right in that bottom left corner. To be fair, I actually think one of the ones they set back to beat, and then that maybe led to one of the goals. But sometimes I just want him to pick up the ball and run with it. Like you said, when we were in the 4-4-2, we'll talk about him obviously when he was getting the ball from standing, and a lot of the time he just wouldn't. He'd like do a few step overs and then just pass it back. Whereas I'm like, just go, mate. You're good enough to beat the players in these leagues. Just take them on and go for it. But no, I like him. If you put him on the park, he's going to get you chances and get you goals, get you assists. But I do understand a lot of the frustration in the Hibs fans, or some of the frustrations anyway, with work rate and all that, because sometimes he's certainly against St Mirren. Actually, he was one of the players I was most disappointed with. There was a couple of times where it was one time we sat in the east stand and the ball was coming towards us, I think, and like if he'd went for it, he could have made it. Definitely could have made it, and he just it looked like he couldn't be bothered basically. And then 10 minutes later, I don't know if he maybe sensed that people were frustrated with him, and then he kind of done like a token, like chase the defender down when he knew he was never going to have a chance to win it, just to try and get people back on side. But nah, he's a frustrating one, but his stats don't lie, and that's in an underperforming team. So I think if we can get the rest of the guys around him performing, and maybe with the three in the midfield, a wee bit more energy, takes a wee bit of the expectation for him to work back, which clearly doesn't. It's no part of his game. That's just, I think people are just going to have to accept that. But I would three midfield, maybe let him do his job a wee bit more in an attacking sense, because at the end of the day he's an out and out attacker. So let's keep him up the park where he's dangerous.
And Liam, for yourself, is he a stick-on starter, or do you think he's kind of a rotation option just with the
I think
strength
you
we've
know
got
my
up
answer
top?
to that. To be honest, you know how I feel about the man. For me, I think he'll benefit in the same way to Boyle if you get three across the middle of the park. I do agree with most of what Craig said. The only thing I would say is I think he is going to have to do the defensive side of the game in some circumstances. Like when you're playing Celtic, Rangers, maybe even Hearts and Aberdeen, we're going to have to still expect him to do a bit of the tracking back. He is actually better at it than people give him credit for. You know, in terms of he will run, he will chase, but he does switch off in moments, and I think that's kind of pretty typical of guys like him who are more focused on the attacking side of the game. For me, against the shite in the league, I wouldn't be asking Elian to come in and track the full back 40, 50 yards. It's not what I think he should be doing. I think players like that, you let them express themselves in the final third. He is quite simply our most productive player in the final third. So you got to find a way to keep him in there, keep him in the positions where they can influence the game, rather than expecting guys like that to, you know, do doggies. It's not. It's not like you've got other guys in the team who can do that for you. Like, just leave that to them and get the guys who can hurt the other team the most up at the other end of the pitch.
Definitely. And then a couple, most of the talking points were just kind of reflections on the game. Kaiser Soze sent in a gif of Mr. Chow from Community when he's like trying to see, and he was like me trying to find a stream, announce fiber optics in Inverness. And Dave Hibbs also said no Hibs TV or BBC Extra, shocking but better scoreline. Just to say, in terms of mainland Europe HSC, it was a sunken ship, and unfortunately, mainland Europe was not very happy because we had no access to watch the game. Liam, it was a sad day for mainland Europe, wasn't it, on Saturday?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what mainland Europe are going to do when there's no games. It's just impossible for them to get there. I do think that you're onto something there. Mainland Europe Hib supporters club's broad enough, mate, that you might get some. I don't know what nationality you would speak at that particular supporters club, given it takes nationality. Yeah, what language you'd speak, given it takes in so many nationalities. But don't know. It's maybe not a bad shout that.
Big mainland Europe, we've been to Bromby, we've been to what you got, Athens, we've been to Luzerne, mainland Europe HSC. Are we getting it rocking and rolling?
Absolutely, mate. Your passport must be filling up by now. Eh? You need a new one soon.
Well, it's just a nightmare though when you go to these countries these days with Brexit and you actually have to queue to actually get through. Nightmare. That's a debate for another time.
You've got the Jambos to thank for that.
Oh, okay. And we've got them to thank for the overstocking of cardigans throughout Edinburgh. But Steve Conde sent in, main talking point for me is that when I was watching the rugby, the co-com said some hefty French guy was honeypotting around a ruck. Harry, you are vindicated. Still no fecking clue what it means though. So, just to clarify, when I was younger and I was playing football, this is when I was like, we're talking like very beginner, maybe like 6, 7 year old. Whenever, because every player wants the ball as much as possible. So when you start your games and it's your first game, everybody just runs to the ball. There's no like spreading yourself out to like give an option in space. So honeypotting, from what the coach said to me, was everybody just gathering around the ball, like essentially like bees to honey, but he would call it honeypotting. So for me, that's what honeypotting was. And I thought that was a known thing. I thought that when you played football when you were really wee, everybody would say the phrase honeypotting because to me it makes sense. But I've said it. Nobody has a clue what I've said, and now I look stupid because that one coach when I was 5 or 6, 7, whatever age I was, has said honeypot, and I'm like, that's a great phrase. But Craig,
I think it was just heedless chickens, Harry. I think heedless chickens is generally the term that's used in that circumstance.
Yeah, but Craig, you've heard of honeypotting, haven't you?
Absolutely, I'll stick my neck out in the line for you, Harry, mate, and I fully understand. But maybe it's a port-seating thing or something.
I was going to say.
But no, I fully understand what you mean. All the bees and honey and all that, and it's like when you get so focused on one thing and you like tunnel vision almost. So no, I back you up on that every day of the week.
But Steve, we don't do any awards, but you're my listener of the week, mate. That's made my week reading that question or that statement, whatever you call it. And then Albert Street said, we look so much better in midfield with the three, and Inverness were no walkovers. Ferguson has them well drilled. Boyle was the big difference. So Craig, being at the game, would you agree with that well drilled team that just because we looked a bit better organised, we dealt with well?
Like I said earlier, I was fairly disappointed with Inverness. I thought they would be better. Just more in an attacking sense. I don't think they really got going. But we were. I'm not a massive guy on formations and all that kind of stuff. I buy more into, not to sound like G or anything, but doing your job, application, all that kind of thing. But at the end of the day, right, it's 11v11. No matter how you're set up, unless you put 10 up front, we've got better players than the other teams. We should be doing better. And a lot of these games all was coming down to was, in my opinion, not again. I think a lot of these are honest guys. I don't think they're bad pros or anything, but just run about, eh? And I think it's not a coincidence that we got a much better performance when we changed formation. Obviously, I do accept that, but I think a lot of that as well is obviously we had with the bust up and all that. The energy levels were completely different from everybody, not just Moriah-Welsh in midfield. That had a massive impact because he was excellent. But I'm not a massive guy for the formations. I prefer just chase your man.
Formations are for virgins, Harry.
I don't bring them up that often, goodness. But yeah, in terms of if there was a down the slope managerial team, I think you've just taken up my role, Craig. So thanks for nabbing yourself in there. But it would be 11 ball-winning midfielders that would go around and kick everybody, and they would all quip Roy Keane quotes the whole day, and then Liam and G would pat them on the head and be like, "Good son," and then that would be their training session over. Uh, but Luke Cunningham said, "Good win in a game that could have been a honeypot." That's he's using a honeypot for a whole new thing. That's not what I said, my friend. But he said last couple of games have put a bit more positivity into the rest of the season. In brackets, I'm a fickle man, and I'm definitely a fickle man too. As I said on last week's pod, I know it sounded stupid, but for the first time I was looking down the table, I felt miserable, and then after two really good performances, now I'm like, yeah, boys. Let's get chasing. Liam, in terms of your perspective, we definitely feel a lot better recording this week than we did last.
Oh, aye, we are like I think me to the least degree, in fairness, and I'm saying this with balance, but I think we are quite reactionary. Let's put it that way. So we are therefore a reflection of the Hibs fan base, which are also quite reactionary. There were a lot of "let's get him gone," bin shouts, which I'm sure will come back at some point again this season when we lose inevitably another game, because we will lose another game between now and the end of the season. But actually, things do feel a wee bit more positive. I think the only thing I would say is that there is a cluster of teams in the middle of the league, essentially. There is not really an awful lot separating them. And actually, time is running out for us to pick up points. Like, it's all very well saying the next three games are tough, but we actually need to take something from those next three games. The fixtures then after that get a little bit easier, like playing Ross County. I know Ewan thinks that that's for some reason difficult, but we're playing Ross County twice in the space of 7 days, 10 days. Playing Livingston, I think, after that. Like, those are games really where we should be getting 9 points from those three games. So I think things can improve, but I'm never really big on looking down the table because I don't know who that serves. I don't know who. I saw the comparisons that were kicking about last week with the kind of Butchers team. I thought that was kind of nonsensical and a bit hyperbolic, but I do think where we're at is ultimately the next sort of 6, 7 games probably going to define what kind of season we have. Which might be quite an obvious statement given how big a chunk of the season that is. But I think what you'll see is that cluster of teams maybe start to separate a little bit with those who pick up form and those who sort of nosedive the other way.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, in terms of your perspective, actually, we're coming on to the Aberdeen game in a second. Final listener point comes from Tony Swanson. He said it was a must win, wasn't there, but listen to the commentary. Seemed like a good game continuing on from the Celtic game. Glad Monte is keeping with the new shape. Blooded a few players today, perhaps not much. Perhaps not match ready, and great Lafondra's back, and Boyle seemed everywhere, even tackled. So good on you, Martin Boyle, making tackles. But yeah, and any final thoughts on the Inverness or Celtic game? I know we didn't go into them in too much depth, but I think we covered the main points
Just
from
to
them.
say, we mentioned the pitch earlier. Inverness, obviously Liam was questioning. It was actually quite decent looking, to be honest. And in person, anyway. Also, it's difficult sometimes on TV. You get the sort of bird's eye view on it, but it looked fairly slick when the players were warming up. So I don't think there was sort of any issues there.
My apologies to the Cali Thistle groundsman if he's listening,
Absolutely,
which he's not.
nah, it was all right.
Not acceptable, Liam. But moving on, obviously, massive game coming up this weekend. It feels like whoever wins this game's probably going to kick on and get top six. I don't know if that's too much of a stretch, but it does feel like it's a really huge game for the two teams involved. We make the trip up to Pittodrie, where Craig has travelled to, I think, 6 or 7 times without seeing us win.
Oh, mate, no, it's double that at least.
Yeah, Craig
Joking.
has literally travelled to the US and back in terms of miles going to Aberdeen to see Hibs get beat consistently. And then whenever he doesn't go or can't go, we seem to win. Are you making the trip up this weekend, Craig?
I've got my ticket sitting in the house, but unfortunately my dad's having to go in for a hospital appointment, nothing major, but so I'm now going to have to work. So the good thing is, no, you're putting your hand in your head, but the good thing is Hibs are now guaranteed to win, so that's good. Because
Oh,
literally
mate.
I've been every time to Aberdeen in the last 5, 6 years, and the 2 times I've not been, we've won. So
Well, that though obviously, as long as the main man is all right, that is what we're after. But yeah, in terms of Aberdeen, Liam, what do you make of Neil Warnock and coming in? He's obviously had a pretty rough schedule. I think he played Celtic and Rangers in his first two games. But are
I
you?
wasn't in charge for the Celtic
Oh,
game.
was it
It
not?
was it was Peter Leaven took the Celtic game. I think he's had the Rangers game and then obviously a slightly kinder fixture and Bonnie Rose at home. What do I make of them? I don't really know. I watched most of the game against Rangers on Tuesday night last week, and they looked to me like a Barry Robson Aberdeen team, to be honest, and that they were quite stubborn, quite, you know, set themselves up to, I suppose, play a bit on the counter. Didn't really offer a huge amount, and then they kind of burst into life after they scored a kind of goal against the run of play, I suppose. They're going to be a threat because they've got Majowski. Like he is probably he's in the conversation to be the best centre forward in the league at the moment. He's certainly the one with the highest ceiling, I would say, in terms of non-old firm strikers. So I think he'll present problems. Our record up there is not great, as Craig's touched on. So, but we did win the last time we were there, right? So who knows? It's going to be a massive game. I think for me, it's not a must win, but it's definitely a must not lose at the very least. I don't think we can afford to lose that game with where we're at in the season. So pressure's going to be on, but I don't know, like maybe just having one away last weekend, like or the weekend there, just maybe give players a bit of a lift, going north again. I don't know. There's something about this that tells me that we're on the verge of a revival, and I don't really know what I'm basing that off other than like two pretty decent performances. So I'm just fucking really hoping that we can go up there and like snag a 1-0 or something.
Hey. And let's do it. I always enjoy building the team. I think it's a bit of fun. And Craig, you got a bit of freshness to help us do it. So in terms of defence going forward, obviously you got Marshall and goals. Now you're going to have the defence of left back to right back. We're going to have a Beta, Triantis, Fish, and Miller. Do you guys agree with that? Would you take Hanlon back in over Triantis?
I agree, but can we just always ensure that we name the teams right to left, please? Because Ewan's not on, and we certainly don't go naming teams left to right for any other reason than Ewan being on. Thank you.
Okay, but I identified I was doing it, and I said left. Okay, okay. But yes, in terms of the back line, would you start with the same back five essentially, including the keeper, as we did last week, or would you look to bring Hanlon back if he's fit?
No,
Open
I'd
to both
probably
of
go
you.
the same, to be fair. I'd probably go. I'm big on continuity as well, so get the same players playing together, but a wee bit of relationships building. Uh, but certainly for the back four, I'll go exactly the same. Yeah.
And in terms of the midfield, we'll obviously, I think we're all on board with having Newell and Moriah-Welsh definitely starting. Levitt obviously looked pretty good when he came on against Inverness, from what I'm aware, and he got his goal against Celtic. But would we stick with him starting, or would we keep Amos in the team? Who would you guys lean towards for this game?
Interesting Craig's take on Amos at the weekend because seen sort of conflicting
Oh yeah.
reports about his performance. Some people saying they thought he looked good, others saying he kind of sort of lacked sharpness, but be interested to see what Craig thinks on this one.
I would definitely sit on it. He looked maybe half a yard off it at times. Uh, I thought to be fair, the whole team the first sort of 5-10 minutes started okay. I thought he looked decent. He had a chance edge of the box, dragged it wide, but there was a couple of times where he got caught on the ball. So like maybe just he'd done the right thing and then just took half a second too long to release his pass or whatever it was, take his extra touch, and he got caught just two or three times, couple of misplaced passes. Uh, but Beck's actually said he looked like a player who'd playing his first 5 games for sort of like 6 months or something, which I thought was a wee bit harsh. But uh, nah, it was okay. It wasn't stinking, but I didn't think it was a bad idea. The change that Monty made at halftime, bringing Levitt on instead. I'm like, that's probably one that I would have done as well. But uh, I think he's with his injury layoff. I believe he's been out for a while, so getting him back to playing football would be good to get him these 45 minutes against a plucky team like Inverness. They're going to be getting stuck into him when he's trying to release his passes. So, nah, it was okay, but probably wouldn't start him against Aberdeen.
And then I would agree. I'd probably put Levitt back in there. I know, like last week's episode, we were saying how Levitt and Yo should never start together again. What a difference a week makes, guys, honestly. But as we touched on, we are definitely fickle. Up front, I think in terms of the wings, we've definitely. Am I right in saying we'll stick with Ewan and Boyle on each wing? Striker, who would you guys would Vent to come back in, or do you think that whilst the team looked so good? Without him against Inverness, you just kind of stick with what's working. Open to Craig first, then I'll put you on the
Right,
spot.
I'll go first. I see. This is one I was dreading because honestly, I'm struggling majorly on that one. Because I really liked Luke and Melida. And I feel a bit sorry for Vinny. I feel like he's been asked to be doing sort of a different role. Certainly against Celtic, obviously, he's not been this goal scoring machine that we kind of got a glimpse of at the start of the season, but I don't think that's entirely his fault. I think he's been asked probably to play a wee bit deeper. Certainly against Celtic, my brother noticed he basically didn't leave Callum McGregor's side for however long he was on the park. He was just pretty much following him about. Obviously, that's not the best for a striker in terms of scoring goals and getting in the box, but uh, it's a difficult one. I wouldn't be opposed to either starting. What I would say is maybe Venti's your out and out striker more than maybe Melida. It's a limited sort of sample size to use one of Liam's phrases, but with Melida. But I'd lean towards Venti just because he's our striker. He's the number 9, so I'd lean towards him.
Good problem to have, Liam. But where do you stand on it?
I really don't know. I'm going to just continue to champion Dylan Vent and say he should play. I do like the look of my leader. I do think he's a nice option to have, particularly coming off the bench. Just with his pace, but also he's got that sort of fleet of foot, which makes him quite a useful player, I think, in the later stages of games. But I think to Craig's point, Vent is that's the job that he's been employed to do, and he's demonstrated, albeit sparingly, he has demonstrated he can do it well. So I would go with him this weekend.
Nice. I think that we've put together a pretty strong squad. And I've got a little bonus thing we're doing because Craig's on. I like to have fun. But just before we get to that, in terms of the game, what's the predictions? Where are we going? Craig, we'll come to you first. What do you think the score will be, and who do you think will be making things happen?
I'm gonna see. I struggle because I'm quite a sort of sort of stereotypically not negative, but we've beat Aberdeen twice this season already. I'm like, what are the chances that we're going to beat them a third time? But nah, do you know what? I'll go with the good old 2-1 Hibs, and I think it'll be yeah, why not? We're backing them up, so I'll back them fully. 20 double.
Oh, get in there. 2 goals for our little Dutchman. Liam, what are you saying?
I'm going to go 3-1 Hibs, mainly because Craig took my 2-1 Hibs that I was going to go for. 3-1 Hibs, you're going to ask me for goal scorers, so I'll have to give them Ellie Yuan hat trick.
Oh, we love to see it, guys. We're getting. I'm going to go slightly different. I think defensively we looked good. We fell asleep in the 95th minute. The referee should have ended the game by then anyway, in my opinion. I didn't watch it. I don't know, but that's what should have happened. So 3-0 last week. We're keeping the clean sheets going in my eyes, and it's going to be 2-0 Hibs. Lafondra going to score an absolute screamer, and we're going to be like, "Oof." And then you can what I'm liking the Yuan. No, actually, sack that. Sorry, Yuan. Boyle. I'm keeping the hype train going. Boyle's getting another goal as well. So, boys, I never thought we'd all be so positive about Hibs versus Aberdeen. But just to end us off, we're going to do another segment of blind ranking because I don't actually know if I've done one with you yet, Liam, but I've definitely
No,
not done with you,
no.
Craig. So, who wants to go first? I've got 2 categories. I've named them 1 and 2. Craig, pick a number,
Like,
1 or 2.
2.
All right. So, Liam, you're up first. Are you happy with that?
okay.
Super. You have got goalkeepers. Okay, you've got goalkeepers. So these are just 5 random goalkeepers that Liam was going to rank from 1 to 5. We're going to start with Graham Stack.
3,
Solid. Keeps your options open. Second, we're going to pivot to Mark Hawksley.
4,
We're then going to jump to Conrad Logan.
2,
Risky biscuits here. That's all on the line. We've got 1 and 4 available. We're going to go for Andy McNeil next.
I've got 1 in 5 available.
What? Oh, is it 1 in 5? Sorry. Oh yeah,
I've
you've got
gone
Oxley at 4.
3.
Hearts fans are
Yeah,
loving that.
Ooh.
I'm gonna bargain on you giving me a stinker. I'm gonna put Andy McNeil #1 cup winning
Oh,
legend.
no.
And Ophir Marciano is the worst ranked
Oh,
Hibs
wow.
keeper by Liam. Get in.
Greg
I knew
will be
the
happy
counter
about
block.
that at least.
So
Uh,
off my list.
double bluffed.
Nice, Liam. I hope you're happy with that. But Craig, if you were to rearrange Liam's at all, he's went for Andy McNeil, Conrad Logan, Graham Stack, Mark Oxley, Ophir Marciano.
He's been done dirty on the last one there. Like, if they were the other way around, then I don't think it would have been too horrendous. But I think that kind of spoils it a wee bit. I'd maybe, do you know what? Conrad Logan deserves to be #2 cup hero and all that, but I actually didn't think he was that great overall. So I'd maybe drop him for swap Stack and him around. But
To be for me, if you'd swapped, what you got? If you'd swapped McNeil and Marciano, and then you just literally bumped Oxley down to 5, that probably would have been my list there. To be honest, but
Oxley scored a goal though, so it's all right.
Mate, honestly, that still winds me up to this day. Liam, is there any obvious ones you wish you could have changed?
I just would have made the last couple of choices over again. I would have been quite satisfied. I don't think actually McNeil was worse than Oxley though. I would have Oxley #5. Graham Stack's a funny one because Graham Stack, I don't really remember Graham Stack having many bad games, but I remember a lot of Hibs fans not really liking Graham Stack. But I think that's just because he played in some pretty chronic Hibs teams, and therefore if you play for a chronic team, doesn't really matter what kind of player you are, you just get associated with being shite. So
Especially as a goal.
sorry, Stacky. I also met Stacky in Bangkok Airport about 6-7 years ago, and he was a top bloke. And I met him a few times in Edinburgh on nights out and that, and he was a character, shall we say.
I swear to God, there was one time we were playing Aberdeen at home, and Graham Stack, they played a high ball over the top, and then he ran out, and instead of trying to kick it or just waiting in his box for it to come to him, he ran and dive and headed it away, and it is still one of my favourite moments I've ever had from a Hibs goalie because it was completely unnecessary, but I was all on board with it. But Craig, you have picked Harry's eclectic list of strikers, just random strikers that popped into my head. So starting off, feed the Hef and he will score. We got Heffernan. I've actually forgotten his name off the top of my head. Is it Paul Heffernan? That's the one. Paul Heffernan. Had him in the championship.
Talking Hibs Heffernan or
Hibs Heffernan.
Yeah.
Formerly Kilmarnock, I think. Then it came to us. Scored when we beat Livingston 4-0 in the championship.
I remember we were both at that. It was close.
Yeah, feed the Hef and he will score.
See, I feel like you're going to hit me with a few stinkers. I'm going to start 3 as well. I feel like it's definitely a safe option. 3,
conservative. Okay.
I was going to put 4, but then I thought 3 just because I feel there'll be a couple of stinkers to come.
Hey, I'm glad you got this one because it's a namesake of both of us. Second, we've got Harry McCurdy.
Oh, Christ. To be fair, Heffernan instantly is better because he scored a goal. So I'll go 4.
Ooh. And then up
Sure,
next,
5.
we've got James Collins. We've got 1, 2, and 5 available.
2.
2. Ooh. And then we'll go for the cup winning legend next. So we've got 1 and 5 available. We've got James Keatings.
Wow.
1
He
or 5.
can't be 5 because he can't be worse than not even the cup winning, but the Falkirk goal getting us promoted, in my humble opinion. I think that was the goal that done it for us. So I'll have to go 1 for him then because I can't put him 5.
I liked these games because we just get to do random anecdotes. Remember when it was actually Keating's on fire before it was Stokes' on fire?
It was, yeah.
The good old day. But the striker you put #5, I think you are going to be a bit saddened by this. Owen Doyle is your #5 spot. And
I'm not that bothered, actually.
Nah,
I'm really
no.
not that bothered. No, I wasn't a massive Owen Doyle fan.
I tell you, he's going to have a good career. Him and James Collins, see his 2 players on the list, have gone on to have very good careers for players who were, let's be honest, like not really rated by the Hibs fan base. I liked Owen Doyle. I thought there was something in them. I actually quite like James Collins as well, to be fair. And I'm not just saying that with the benefit of hindsight. Again, 2 players that have just played for Hibs at the wrong time.
Hey.
With better players around them, they'd have been decent. Paul Heffernan, not so much.
fair to say, Craig's list probably slightly more accurate than yours, Liam. But if you could make changes, so he went for Keatings, Collins, Heffernan, McCurdy, and then Doyle. So I would probably say swap Doyle and Heffernan straight away, and
Aye,
maybe,
I'd
yeah,
have Doyle, Heffernan, and McCurdy would be my 3-4-5, and I was happy enough with his 1-2, to be honest.
yeah.
Yeah, I was
Got
happy
to
enough
love
with his
Keatings,
one
eh?
two. Yeah,
I'd agree with the changes as
I,
well.
I don't know. I'd find it hard to separate Owen Doyle and James Collins, but
Mm.
I think, like I said, both gone on to have good careers. Um, aye,
Owen Doyle for his scuff at Hampden.
Yeah, anybody
aye.
that scores a tatty bash goes instantly up in my estimations, and
Was
that was a corker on the toe.
was Owen Doyle not dubbed before he joined us? Was he not like the Irish Messi or the Ginger Messi or something like that before he came as well? Do you remember that phase? Every single footballer just getting called insert, like whatever part of the world they're from, Messi. Um, the all timer with that one's definitely the Gambian Roberto Carlos. The way, like, just
Jesus.
It's
how
still
Some
anyone can
player.
watch him and call him anything Roberto Carlos. Like, I don't know. I don't know.
like that free kick. Like I genuinely think that should be spoken about more. The one that literally went out parallel to where he was on the pitch at the halfway line. That is a skill that nobody in the world possesses apart for that wee Gambian
That is
boy.
football terrorism, that.
Did Gary O'Connor talk about that on the pod that we did with him? I
Aye.
feel like he mentioned it. I feel like he mentioned that he's that's another one. I got that horribly wrong because I looked at him on his debut and I thought he'll be all right. He'll do a job. He looks decent. I also massively overrated George Claros as well based on his first few games. I thought he looked like he's a good one for a blind ranking because he's another one that really splits opinion. George Claros, say some people think he was great, some people are like he played in a shit team, so he was shit.
He's all
It's
right.
funny, eh? Some players just ride on the coattails. Like I'm not like I have a good team and just get associated with the good times, even though they weren't that good.
Aye.
Do
And
I
there's
name some
definitely
names?
people that will get the reverse of that as well. Like as you say, James Collins, I don't think
Uh,
performance-wise was ever as bad as people made him out, but he was part of some pretty shocking Hibs teams. So,
I think some players just get lucky. Dylan McGeoch.
oh, Craig knows where I
Who?
stand on
Dylan
Dylan
McGeoch.
McGeoch. Aye.
Oh, Dylan McGilk. Do you know what? Harry has a thing for Dylan McGilk, but not in a good way. It's difficult because he was in, like, he was in the best Hibs team of recent times, I would say. It's fair to say. And he had one of the best ever Hibs players of modern times with John McGinn in his midfield. So maybe, no, he definitely wasn't as good as them, but I thought he was pretty decent. We
You
came
see,
ahead in there.
I'm a Fraser 5A man myself. Like if I had to pick between the two.
Really?
because my thing with McGeoch that annoys me is I think McGeoch, the way I describe him, is good, not great. But I had people tell me that he was the tempo of that team and that he was the reason that that team played as well as they did. And that is just utter nonsense. It's like Michael Carrick was good, not great for Man U for many, many years, but he's not the reason that Man U won multiple titles. And McGeoch wasn't the reason that Hibs were as good as they were. And that is, as I say, I've not got a bad word against the guy.
Aye,
I
you do.
just it annoys me.
Yeah, he's a good
I
player.
don't like overrated players, and I think he's overrated. I don't think he's bad, but I think he's overrated. He'd be
He's
my
a good.
overrated if I done another tweet like that. So there you go.
He's a good player.
Aye, yeah, exactly. Good
And
player. Agreed.
there's allowed to be nuance in the world. Like you're allowed to say something's overrated, but it's still good. That's okay.
Yes.
Some people don't understand nuance, unfortunately, but others do. It's the way the world works.
Pew, pew. But yes, no, we went on a bit of a tangent at the end there. But if you like that segment of the blind ranking, it's definitely something we can do more often. I definitely enjoy it, so that's something. But Craig, thanks so much for joining us. I think you had a pretty good debut. We've seen a few of them for Hibs in recent weeks, and you've definitely came on and performed well. How do you feel you turned out today?
No, I enjoyed it. It was good fun, actually.
Harry,
Chatting with a couple of good
if you're
guys.
going to
So.
have to give him a Hibs player debut to compare his down the slope debut to, who would it be?
Oh, I think it's only fair to say Nathan Wood.
Fucking hell.
Nah, I'm joking. Oh, that's a good question. Ken, the game where we got pumped off Rangers, but the young boys came in, they actually played really well. Was that
Aye,
Campbell's first game? And then Campbell was really decent. Was it Challenge Cup in the second
aye.
season of the Championship? And
Handling
What,
then
we're going to
played.
beat
Danny
6-2?
Handling played.
aye, uh
Sam Stanton played that night as
Scored
well, I
early
think.
on, eh?
yeah,
Uh,
but like we played pretty guff, but the boys that like the young players that played, they made a mark. So Craig, you made a mark today. That's all
So,
I'm
uh,
saying,
so
man.
basically, I was all right, but I was got pumped 6-2.
Aye, well,
That's
I
good
couldn't
unit
think of
points.
any like recent debuts that I was like, wow. I didn't want to quite say Moriah-Welsh because then your head would just implode of
Nah, my head would be
happiness.
massive
So,
after that.
aye. Any obvious ones for you, Liam?
Oh fuck! I wasn't expecting that question to turn back on me. I'll go with an Adam Lafondra debut. Kind of
Oh,
classy,
nice.
fairly composed. Showed he knows
Wow,
what to do. So it's better than some debuts I've seen on this podcast. So
that's a good
I'll
one.
say that.
But is that not a defeat away to an Andorran side that you've just labelled Craig with?
But it wasn't Adam Lafondra's fault.
Yeah, no,
Actually,
you're
was struggling to
definitely.
remember what his first game was. I was thinking his first game was Luzerne at home. Completely.
Oh,
Was it? Oh no, it
We'll
wasn't.
just
No,
say
he
it
did
was.
play
We'll just say it
against.
was.
I will say it was. That's the game I was referencing.
so there you go. The non-debuts, Craig, you are absolutely smashing at the park. But anyway, thanks, as we said, many thanks for coming on and joining us today. It was great to have you on. And Liam, thank you as ever. As we've said, we're definitely beating Aberdeen because Craig unfortunately can't make it. And we will catch you guys next time. Goodbye.
Mona Hibs.